I feel like I don't have your typical everyday Christian story or journey that you would usually hear. I was not raised in church. We didn't go to church or do any of that ever. The only time I did go or get any of that was if I spent the night with a friend and they went on a Sunday morning, or if I had a friend call me up and say, hey, it's Wednesday night, bring a friend night, would you like to go with me? And then I would go every once in a while. But besides that, most of my life I was pretty clueless to anything regarding the Lord and the Bible. I really didn't know your basic Bible stories that you learn in Sunday school. I had basic knowledge of who Jesus was and what he did, but that was about it. And even then, still, I really had no clue who he was or what he did. Growing up, I never really knew who my biological father was or is. The guy that I called my dad had been in my life since I was 18 months old. And even then, he was in and out of my life a lot. My mom and him fought constantly, and he drove a truck and worked those kinds of jobs and things, so he was constantly in and out. It was very, very unstable relationship and situation. As a kid, I got bullied a lot. I feel like I had seen it all and experienced it all. I was kind of a tomboy as a kid, so all the boys, thought they were so cool, and because I was a stronger girl, I was not so cool, and so I got picked on a lot. Growing up, there was a lot of physical, mental, emotional, sexual abuse throughout my life. Middle school and teenage years were super hard. I moved schools the second semester of 7th grade and got to completely start over, which was hard, but in the same time it was a complete blessing that I got to do that. And being this, this preteen, teenage girl who has never had this super amazing male role model in her life, I think I was constantly trying to, fill that void for that need, that father figure in my life. With good or bad things, I did tend to submerge myself in school and be a perfectionist in that, to get straight A's and do all the things that I could do in all of that. It was really an escape for me, and that was where a big part of my photography journey started, was in yearbook through high school. I mean, that was my excuse to be able to say, oh, well, I have to go to this event, or I have to go to this football game because I have to photograph it. And I think that's where that passion kind of sparked for me, because it was my escape. It was my getaway. And in the midst of all that, I was trying to figure out who I was, what my identity was, and one day I would be, dressed like this crazy cool punk rock chick, and then the next day I would be head to toe cowgirl. So I was lost. I was a lost girl who had no idea what she was doing, but she thought she did. Fast forward to senior graduation. The night I graduated, I actually moved out away from home with a guy I had been dating for a while. I moved in with him and his family, thinking that, I've got this life made. I know what I'm doing. I know who I'm going to marry and what I'm going to do and all these things. And little did I know was that the Lord was fixing to turn my life upside down and kind of rock my world. So the relationship that I had with this guy very much mimicked the relationships I had seen all my life. It was, constant battle, constant fight. It was very toxic. It wasn't good or healthy for either one of us. And 2 weeks to the day of where I was supposed to move to a completely different state and marry this guy and, be gone away from everything that I knew, the Lord dropped my husband basically into my lap. I had a job at Chili's as a bartender, and he was a faithful customer. And so he randomly asked me to go to Frisco, and like the crazy person apparently that I was, I said yes without knowing him or anything about him or anything at all. So, and we went the next day, and that is kind of where our relationship got started. He grew up in church for the most part, and luckily he had a mom and grandma and stepdad who constantly prayed over him and prayed for me before they even knew me. And I wound up getting saved in their garage while we were dating. And that is how I met Jesus, and how my freedom journey started, was in a garage. So in the beginning, I had this false, distorted view of who, God was. I thought, oh, he's just this big guy in the sky who's just constantly like, don't do this, don't do that, judge, 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 condemn, 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 condemn. And I had a tendency to put this earthly view of men and my earthly father onto my heavenly father, which I think a lot of us are easy to do, is to compare the two, because this is what we have in front of our face, this is what we've experienced, and it's easy to put that on him, and it's not fair to us, nor is it fair to the Lord, because that is definitely not who he is. He is mercy and grace and love, completely rolled into one. And he has definitely shown me throughout these years who he is. And along with that, he has shown me who I am and who he says I am. I may have had all these words and negative things and things done to me, or things that I've gone through, over my life, but that's not who I am. I get to be who he says I am. I get to be who he has called me to be. I get to be the promises that he has spoken over me. And even now, it's a daily thing of where I have to, I really have to focus on that. I'm who you called me to be. I'm here to do what you called me to do. And it's for your purpose. I really love one of the definitions in the dictionary of journey, and it's a long and often difficult process of personal change and development. And it just perfectly describes these past 10 or 11 years with the Lord. Is I went from this girl who literally knew nothing, barely knew what Jesus did, to completely stepping out in faith and moving nearly 3 hours away to Fort Worth, where we knew no one or anything, and he met us there, and he took us on a freedom journey, and I'm so very thankful for that, and I'm thankful that we got to bring that back here, and it was all in his timing. And we've had to learn to trust and surrender and peel back those things along the way. We've learned a lot about him, and we keep learning, and it's amazing to me. My word for the year was revelation. And it's mainly a revelation of Him and a renewal of who He is. And it's definitely come to pass this year. I've learned, it's only April, and I feel like I learned little by little and just seen things already this year who just confirms who He is, and what He's doing and what He's done. And getting to be a part of Just Be has been a huge blessing. Getting to use the gifts that He has given me for ministry and church and things. I know I'm where I'm supposed to be and doing what I'm supposed to do, and I'm so thankful and grateful for the people He has put in my life. I really am excited to see what is yet to come. My name is Ashley, and this is my Just Be story.